Even when I suspected that, okay, people bring in foodstuff, they've got lots of young men are coming in foodstuff from the north, and we had to shut down the whole area, the whole of the Lagos Street, the Leeway access, and to take compulsory tests of the people in that area, and we didn't find much. That's too much of that. There was nothing extraordinary about the results we got from the tests. The fact is that we have a lot of, the last few years, we've just seen to attract a lot of labor, migrant labor, people coming to work in the farms, people to just look for opportunities across the country. And don't forget, the country is it's a very young country. The population is quite young and quite mobile. People looking for opportunities. There's nothing that has happened in the last 2 months, that suggests to me that there's been an invasion of the states. Yes, there have been people who've come through. We don't allow, people in those trucks. When we find them, we send them back. But it's not as a big report.
This conference
of private hospitals and private clinics across the the COVID. About how the
This conference will now be recorded. Muted.
Reporting what's going on with them. The third thing we're doing is the morgues. We are looking at the morgues, decongest the morgues, and so that at least there's a space, there's facility for just people to come in and at least we'll know how many people we lost in private hospitals, and we're able to account for them and deal with them. Like I said, unfortunately, I've not been able to deal with the third question, but I don't think I have the confidence.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for answering those questions. We'll move to the panel discussion now, which will be on economic and investment in Edo State. We have quite a rich panel of discussants here, and I have the pleasure of introducing the Honorable Commissioner for Wealth and Creation, Mr. Felix Ahabwe, who will be one of the members of the panel. I have Mrs. Lande Abudu, the Executive Secretary, Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. I have the pleasure of Professor is head of Agribusiness, VOI Bank of Industry in Nigeria. Mr. Habwe, I will start with you, sir, if you do not mind. Just very simple question, quick one too, because we're running seriously short of time now. What measures is Edo State government putting in place to make it easier for indigenes to start their own businesses post COVID-19? And what businesses now, what assistance is government giving them so that they can continue to trade post COVID-19? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you hear me clearly?
Yep, can hear you.
Yeah. Well, Edo State, as I you heard from our governor, is a state well positioned vision. It has become a hub of the country.
Sorry, there's so much noise at the background. If you're not speaking, which I know we are not, can we kindly put our systems on mute, please, so that we can hear the Honorable Commissioner? Thank you.
industry that will remain sustainable. What does that mean? That be capable of running, replicating itself beyond technical and financial assistance. But I will bring these two elements of sustainability in because they converge in the end. Okay? And so
Prof, we can hear you again. I think somehow you've gone off.
Yeah.
All right.
We have two approaches, and these two approaches have always been legendary. One is outward-looking, export-led industrialization strategy. Should we just export our goods? The other is import substitution industrialization strategy. It's quite interesting. I mean, in the 70s, 80s, both the multilateral World Bank, International Finance Corporation, all these major bodies today that is asking us to look inward, they will be actively discouraging, developing countries, Africa, not to do that. Okay. And so the whole idea was that you specialize in primary commodities, you export them, the revenue or the exchange you get from that will be sufficient for you to import your needs. So what did that do? That conditioned us into devoting our scarce resources into producing what we don't need, and importing everything that we need. But the problem came when the resources, the revenue we were getting from export of primary commodities could not sustain what we needed. We now end up buying rice, importing oil. I think you heard one of the federal ministers saying we spend how much billion importing 2 pigs. Okay. It got up to that level. So which is the right way? Is there a wrong way or is there a right way between these two industrialization strategies? There isn't. It depends on your competitive advantage. It depends on which stage of development that you find yourself. Okay. And so that is why it is important that we should assess our situation, very, very well and very carefully. Can I say one thing?
Okay, and Prof, sir, with all due respect, I am sure you have a lot to say, but because we're running out of time, if you can just summarize it, hopefully, if you can present your paper, we'll be able to share with everybody that's on this platform this afternoon. I hope you don't mind, sir.
No, if you're saying that's the way you want to go, then what then do you want me to say to cut the paper short?
Maybe just summarize. I apologize, sir.
Okay, because I was giving 10 minutes.
I apologize, sir.
Okay. No, it's okay. I mean, if you are looking at what I would recommend that a good thing goes to do is to build on its strength. And that simply means looking at sectors such as agriculture and developing that, then industry. But whatever we do in this area, whether you are adding value to primary commodities, as the minister said, there is a crucial point that you have to ensure happens. And that is you must have what we call forward and backward linkages between whatever you are proposing to your economy, right? And then to do that, because the governor said, quite rightly picked up in his speech, that all the industries, farms, and everything set up by Bermuda, no longer existed. And that is critical. You ask yourself why? Why did they just vanish? Because there were no connection between those and what was actually happening, on ground. Some of those beef and all those things, they were exported. Little of them came into our local scenario. So in order to move forward, you have to also underpin that with key and appropriate institutions. That's the reason why those things do not exist today. So you have to have institutional support. That is the rule of the game. What is the contract? What is the standard? What exactly do you want? Organizational, technology, etc., etc. Okay. And so I am very happy to say that the way these things were going to converge before was to actually attest to the fact that a lot of this basic rudimentary stuff, the governor is already, or the state government is already putting all these things in place. What we need now is the institutional support. In other words, you can't ask people to start producing goods and services. Where are the markets? How are you developing the market, for these people internally or locally? Where are the research extension services to support agriculture? As most of you know, when I went to Derby in Leicestershire here, you see the women, the people who put together the engine, the plane engine, that you secure yourself and you fly it. You wouldn't fly them. Some of them cannot even walk on their own. Why? The key important research has been done somewhere. They're just putting the knot and the pieces together. So in other words, you need research to underpin a lot of those things. Those farmers you see, they are at the downstream of the event in terms of yield, etc., etc. So again, I'm sorry I have to reach out the paper, so it didn't flow as I would have wanted it to continue. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much, Prof. Again, I apologize for that. The whole webinar was slated to start at 2 o'clock and finish at 4 o'clock. If you look at the time now, we're about 12 minutes to 4, and we still have quite a bit of things to go. So that's why I just want to reduce everything now. I apologize again. Next person will be Miss Lisan Abdulkader. That's the Vice President Africa for WAFTEC. The question is very simple. That's even WAFTEC's work with investment promotion agencies and government parastatals.
This conference will now be recorded, muted.
And the economic side is not interdependent from the health perspective. So, and in the same manner, the first course of action is to essentially mobilize sufficient domestic resources for health to enable health systems to meet the needs and services of this disease. So this means also setting up innovative ways of spending on health. Governments should boost investment in that to strengthen health systems. And what does this mean in terms of economically? So, at the current state, as we have been viewing FDI in Africa is set to decrease 20%, if not 30%, this year. And in terms of Nigeria, FDI inflows account for 10% of capital FDI formation. So to explain to you this in English, what does this mean? This means that there is more competition to fight for projects and investment. There's a changing investor determinants and when making the investment, and they're more speculative and scrutinized. So obviously the first stage would be to instill investor confidence. And you do that through the health system and the health system in particular. And this is not only to protect the citizens, but also the employees of the workforce. So in terms of now strategies for IPs to take, especially within Nigeria, now we've been advising IPs, investment promotion agencies and governments across the world, but specifically in emerging markets and specifically in Africa, we've been looking at how to make sure that it's cost effective. Obviously, the budgets are different. It's not uniform, neither linear. So the first strategy is to obviously provide daily updates to all on COVID-19 practical support available to these investors. Now, not all investors that are thinking, expanding and growing in Edo State or any region in Nigeria but also especially with regards to the current investors in the market and the current operations, international operations. Everyone knows that it's easier to retain business and expand on that retained business than to create new business, and it's the same thing with regards to investment. So aftercare and business retention is primarily important, and we're seeing that over 60% of investment promotion agencies are focusing on aftercare as a major part. So a lot of the departments are focusing more on retention of investment and expansion of that existing investment rather than at this point going forward and attracting new investment. But obviously that's an important part as we come out of this lockdown phase. On a practical level, IPAs should be looking at providing updates to investors through digital formal and informal channels. I had a discussion a while back with some of the states in Nigeria, and we talked about how this predicament has offered us an opportunity to harness the digital revolution, and obviously, as Professor had said before, sustainability does not happen in one day. It must be nurtured, and obviously we come to a point where we need to fast track and leapfrog, but the necessary environment needs to be put in place to adopt these digital strategies. But in order, at this point in time, there's simple strategies that an IPA can take to create a direct, trustworthy, and transparent link between you and the investor. First of all, is to further push to diversify your sectors. Nigeria as a whole, as well as a lot of the states, have been dependent on certain sectors, particularly on oil and extractive industry for a while. We need to look at the other opportunities, and we also need to push towards diversifying and transforming these economies by strengthening the productive capacity of the Nigerian private sector to transform these raw materials locally. And also, in terms of attracting new FDI, we need to, the next step would be to, as an IPA, to ask yourselves, are the investment opportunities in the sectors clear? When an investor goes to your website or to your link or to your state or is visibly looking at investing in Nigeria and investing in a certain state, do they have the full information? Is your information presentable? Is it covering the location determinants of an investor? We should not be waiting for an investor to arrive to your door to then give them the materials on the investment opportunities. And in this regard, I'd like to say that I've seen a lot of the heads of investment promotion of Edo State going, around. I've been collaborating with them at conferences as well, and I see that there is a proactive nature. So we need to keep on this momentum. The landscape of investment decision making is changing, and it's great if we're proactive to the investor when he's arrived to our door. But what are you doing to reach those investors that are sitting at home or sitting in their offices eventually and looking at investment opportunities? This does not mean, this crisis does not mean that investment will stop or FDI will stop particularly. Rather, it will change. The format as to how investors go about decision making, how companies grow and expand and form partnerships will change, and we need to be at the ahead of the curve of it. And these are some of the ways we can do that. And we can use cost-effective measures such as digital marketing and digital services to further that agenda. And then I guess I would say that what we're recommending in the industry at this time is looking at diversifying your sectors, but doing that by appropriately revising your investment promotions strategy, as well as your value proposition, so those investment profiles that I mentioned, and doing so usually in digital tools. Again, to stress, creating an enabling environment immediately, both for the local businesses and for investors. So this with regards to regulations, with regards to the digital infrastructure in place, and obviously ensuring that it's transparent and visible to these companies and to the attraction landscape. Again, we're in a space of time where there's heavy competition, and if we are to be ahead of the curve, then these are some of the strategies that we need to take into place. I'll just spend the last part of this, because I know we're short in time, to talk about what some best practice activities certain investment promotion agencies regionally and globally have been doing to attract and retain investment. So as I mentioned before, they've been using digital services because so providing 24/7 support 7 days a week over LinkedIn and social media to investors through their website, putting briefs on a weekly basis on the situation, on the numbers of cases, and what they're doing for businesses and investors in the region. Online services to minimize face-to-face applications. So recently we organized with some IPs, some investor missions online, where we targeted companies across different markets, which was cost effective, and there was an investor mission led through webinars. So this is actually working, and it saves on cost, and is just as effective if we qualify the investment opportunity ahead of time. And more so, there's not many IPAs or investment promotion agencies doing this at this time. So it's a good it's a good initiative to take part in. And then I would say the focus would be also in terms of training and skill development of your employees, as well as the general skill development of the current industries in the region. And then in terms of the last thing that I would say is really look at take this time to really look at the opportunities. You know, not every region in the world is strategic. Not every region in the world will have the biggest return of investment with the best workforce. But the way investors are looking at making decisions are changing, and this is with regards to safety and health. New diversified industries that are available, such as e-commerce, digital technology.
Use or summarize what you're going to say now, having the time not being on our side. Because your question is basically, how can Edo State maximize agribusiness to boost the economy of the state post COVID-19? So we just please give us a summary of that. I hope you don't mind. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. So I'll go straight to the point. For Edo State to use agribusiness to thrive during and post COVID-19, agribusiness is very strategic, and it is the way the government of the day is looking at, as seen by the statements of the president and from the vice president. Edo State is rich with pineapple production, which we see go to waste mostly in Obia Southwest local government. There are a lot of post-harvest losses going on in that area, and these pineapples can be used to generate revenue if they're properly handled. How can this be done? The leaves and the peels of these pineapples can be used for fiber production. Thankfully, the Osomor power station, which is about 5 megawatts, also houses the agro cluster in that zone. This will provide power to enable businesses that want to go into processing of this pineapple product and to also combat useful agri-produce. So for the fibers, currently we're importing a lot of fiber that we use for our fashion industry. This can be generated from those fibers can be generated from the waste from pineapple in Edo State. The cottage industries also need to be encouraged because, as it were, the adaptation of technology is slow in the rural area, and we cannot just shut them out. So cluster farming needs to be encouraged in the area. We have a lot of fallow lands, fenced. Some of them are fenced, but nothing built on them. It will be very important and encouraging if we can see the government say, if your lands are fallow and you're not willing to build on them at the moment, kindly use them for agricultural purposes, or get people that are willing to use them to use them for agricultural purposes. Tribal Greek, as it were, they are looking for land in Edo State. Fortunately, we saw 150 hectares of land in Abudu that has not been utilized. If that land is utilized, it involves the local people, it provides jobs for them, and it also generates revenue for the state as a whole. The state is strategically located in terms of logistics. It connects the south, the east, the west, and the north. It is a perfect place for doing business. Ease of doing business in terms of how the government of the day has helped people to get access to licenses that are required is also commendable. However, this opportunity has not been maximized. And COVID has also brought to our attention the need for logistics. There's a broken chain in the supply of food. And we saw how that in Lagos caused a lot of violence. Now, with Edo State, with its strategic location, Edo State can mop up food, hold it in Edo State, and send them across the nation. We're not talking about export at the moment. We're talking about feeding ourselves, being self-sufficient, and Edo State can pride itself, if properly stimulated, can pride itself as the food hub for the nation. It is vast when it comes to cassava production, which is a staple food for all of us. Plantain, we have a lot of plantain and bananas production in the state. And these stems are going to waste. The stalk of plantain after harvest goes to waste, and they become either used as mulching or used as artificial fertilizer, natural fertilizer, but these stems can actually be used for the manufacturing of fibers. It can be used for sanitary towels, diapers, and fabric manufacturing. These industries do not require heavy or huge investment. They require, they are still in the micro and small scale enterprise sector. But if they are done in various areas in the state, it will generate employment, and it will also generate revenue for the state. Another critical advantage that the state has is their maize. As it were, Edo State currently produces sweet corn. It's the only state that I know that produces sweet corn, that has the capacity to produce sweet corn. And we import a whole lot of sweet corn into the country. This can actually be utilized and maximized such that the importation of this sweet corn is no longer required. Edo State becomes the pride of the nation in terms of providing sweet corn for the confectionery sector in the country. These are just few examples for how the State can position itself to generating revenue from agribusiness. The state has an inland port that is not utilized at the moment. This inland port is supposed to facilitate trade, export trade. If that is utilized, if more effort is put into that project, it will be interesting to know that Edo State can export its vegetable, pumpkin, every day to the UK or other countries in Europe. It has a well-organized vegetable, over 5,000 vegetable farmers that are well-organized, produce pumpkin, ewedu, and another green leafy vegetable, and these are vegetables that are required for daily and fresh consumption in the UK. I think that is another sector that needs to be explored.
Okay.
There are a lot of policies in terms of financing of the sector. It would be good if we can get the government to encourage the use of the National Collateral Registry so that these people that don't have land and building or certificate of occupancy can use their movable assets to access funds that intervention funds that are wiped by.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Madado. If I will pause you a bit there, and if you don't mind, I'm sure we have quite a number of people here who have found what you're saying very interesting. If you don't mind to share that paper with us, we would, with all pleasure, circulate it around to everyone here, which is something I'm very sure the people in government, His Excellency, still with us, still have the commissioners with us. They will be interested in hearing that. Perhaps I might even invite you down to Edo State. While we are doing that, I would like to take a sharp switch from investment to health sector. Again, I apologize for running out of time. We'll just have maybe 10 minutes to have the discussion. We'll start with the Honorable Commissioner for Health for Edo State. That's Dr. Patrick Okudia. Honorable Commissioner, sir, when you look at the situation,
good afternoon,
good afternoon, sir. When you look at the situation in Edo State against the COVID-19 pandemic, what is the public health guidance which you are giving to people in Edo State? And would the Edo State government be willing to financially support any local intervention that can help fight COVID-19 within the state? If you can just summarize this for us, 5-6 minutes. I apologize again for time. Thank you very much. Dr. Okudia, are you still with us, sir?
Sorry, please. I missed that.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm there, but the audio is not clear. Come back here.
Okay. My question is, yes. Can you hear me? Dr. Okudia, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you now.
Right, okay. I said
I can hear you.
Okay. What is the situation for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic as regards public health guidance in Edo State? That's one question. And will the Edo State government be willing to financially support any locally made intervention that can help fight this? So, can you...
That's another way to say I need to come up and look if you can help me.
Excuse me, can you please mute yourself so that we can quickly round this thing up, please? Dr. Kudia, I'll just go through the question again so that you can clearly understand it. I said, what is the situation for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic? It's against the public health guidance in Edo State. And will the state government be willing to financially support any locally made intervention that can help fight COVID-19? These days we hear people are using some agbo or something. If you have such opportunity, will the state government be willing to finance it? Thank you very much.
All right. Good afternoon, colleague.
Let me also, because of time, thank our chairman, KD, ID, and Philip. Well, I want to respect the presence of my principal, the executive governor of those states, His Excellency Governor Obaseki. I also appreciate I believe you can hear me, Kule.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud, and I'm sure everybody can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I was supposed to have a presentation. Okay. Yeah. I was supposed to have a presentation of the Edo State Health Sector post COVID-19, and I also actually had a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe you can share it with you later. But with regard to the situation of the COVID-19 response in the Edo State and where we are, I think my governor, who I know that if he had had the opportunity of going to medical school, that probably done much more than any of us. And he's even doing well even without that qualification. He has given us a good update of our response against COVID-19 in the States, and he has aptly done so. But so far, we have a situation where, as at today, the 29th day of May, we have 248 confirmed cases in those states. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Oh, we can hear you. Okay. Please, everybody, can you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself? Why no voice? There's somebody called why no voice. There's somebody called one oh voice. Yeah.
Your friend is wearing a jacket. It's sweet. It's wearing a sweet.
Mute yourself.
What are you talking about?
Can I?
Yes, continue, please.
Can I go on?
Please go on. We're trying to find. Just go on, sir.
Can I go on, please?
Oh, please go on.
All right. First, we all know that
I think the organizer can
COVID-19
mute.
is the global.
Please go on, sir.
It's a global humanitarian challenge. Yes. Because we are also aware that millions of people are battling this virus in various ways. And government industries working together to understand and address challenges. And we in those states will be doing this and supporting our citizens. And also hoping that we will search for vaccines. Of course, for us, we have our own share of this crisis, and of course, we have 69 of them have been discharged from our treatment center. We have unfortunately 11 deaths, and Mr. Governor also told us most of these deaths were really not by COVID-19, the virus itself, but most of them had comorbidities, and others had other challenges. So far, we only have 3 of these deaths that have occurred in 2 of our facilities. The others have occurred even before the results came out, before they make it to our facility. The response structure by those states in regards to as ably said by Mr. Governor, has been so it's at the highest level of governance. At the first instance, when we recorded the very in-depth case in the country on the 27th of February, by 28th, Mr. Governor has set up a task force on COVID-19 response, which he himself chaired. And the same line is, we constituted a technical working committee and mandated the deputy governor to chair that. And the following day, a series of meetings just ensued with all stakeholders in the village, with religious leaders, opinion leaders, the unions and associations, and decisions about what to do and about social distancing measures and all the guidelines were actually driven by
ideas from all these well-meaning stakeholders in Edo State. And we also know that, as he has said, every action that we have taken has been data-driven. And the application of science and bringing experts in the field who developed an epidemiological model that showed us the projections and directed all the plans we had has gone a long way in helping us to address the issue of response to COVID-19 in Edo State. Plus, we knew how to push the division into prevention and treatment. Of course, in prevention, we did a lot in terms of surveillance, contact tracing, and risk communication. If you come to Edo State, the capital city of Benin City, just like it is in all the headquarters of the local government, you will see billboards, posters everywhere educating our people.
Abuse. Do you know how many people we expose their secrets? Do you think we will understand? Sometimes we will not understand. Sometimes
This conference will now be recorded.
The Edo Central, we had the IRA specialist teaching hospital, like that we said by Dr. Chikwe. IRA has been a center of excellence in research and training and treatment for infectious diseases in this country. So the facilities there, the state government has put in a lot of resources to upgrade it and standardize it. So for Edo South, knowing fully well most of our cases and the epicenter of this disease in Edo State is already local government. So Stella Obasanjo Hospital was eventually designated as the infectious disease and COVID-19 center. Right. We started from an initial 12-bed to a 30-bed facility, by expansion to another 30-bed facility, and the government eventually said, if we have exponential expansion, we need to be ready. And so this big hospital that was originally 250-bed facility was converted into an isolation center to accommodate 300 beds. And as you said earlier, this was commissioned just on the 27th of May by his Honorable Minister for Health. So, in terms of facilities to cater for this, the state is ready. In terms of testing capacity, we have 3 molecular PCR machines in the state. And of course, you have heard that
do you think he woke up and he just started talking? Do you think when he's saying things,
we are ready, and then the manpower,
I don't know why I'm
capacity development.
This, and I'm not saying this to buy
put this as a responsibility at the very first instance. For over 4,000 of the healthcare workers in Edo State were trained. And I know take this here that the healthcare workers in Edo State, many of them for years before now, from ranging to 20 years, have never had any form of training.
I'm interested
in opportunity to
hearing
and
the man or the woman
ongoing.
I'm interested in feeling you. When I listen to people, I listen to their hearts
readiness and preparedness. Even though we feel the virus as we speak,
someone like him wake up. He doesn't just wake up and say, let me just go. Let's just go.
This conference will now be recorded. Muted.
This captured in my presentation. But we are looking at what is the status of the healthcare system in Edo State even after COVID-19. And I will say in summary that even though COVID-19 came with challenges to us, the government of Edo State, we have taken these challenges of COVID-19 brought, and we're turning it into, permit me to use this word, a blessing for Edo State, because we have seen the revamping of infrastructures, of facilities in Edo State. We have seen the level of motivation of health workers that has never been there before. That going forward, the original plan of the state government in terms of primary healthcare system, revamping secondary healthcare, we now have a structured healthcare system, and I think we will get it like this time. I want to say, use the opportunity to, on behalf of myself,
the parts that each key player played in the war. Do you understand the reason why I am talking the way I'm
This
talking?
conference will now be recorded. Muted.
Don't you think that there is something that is
appreciate if you can let us have that so that we can share with everybody on the platform this afternoon. We'll get in touch with you afterwards. It's my pleasure to introduce. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Loretta Ogboro-Oko to make a presentation on reviewing comparative management practices across Africa, across countries, and preferring a domesticated strategy. Dr. Loretta Ogboro-Oko.
Good afternoon, everybody. I must thank. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
I must thank them for their attendance and the dedication that we have shown to our state. Importantly, I thank the commissioners and His Excellency. Without much ado, COVID is not new anymore. We used to call it novel, and recently my daughter said, "Mommy, this virus is not old." Looking at all the countries, I recently looked at a paper where I reviewed the methods of management which all the other countries have actually adopted, and then tried to think about how best to domesticate this to our own country, and in particular to our own state. If we look back, we will see that Sweden, whether we like it or not, tried to do what we call the herd immunity approach. And then the bigger part of Europe actually delayed the testing because the truth is that at the very beginning, there were no tests.
His Excellency, Chebego, take it back. I will come and display all of those things. I will come and display that I live in Canada. I will go and I don't drink, but I can go and stay in a sports car or show you my cars or show you my house. But there is something that gives me the conviction to know that this is it. Wearing my beret, wearing something that shows that we are in a struggle, and coming out and focusing on the struggle. That is what pays me now. That is what inspires me. That's what I'm concerned about. Right now, I am concerned about everybody. The thing that really breaks my heart is to see the lack of cooperation amongst people who are agitating for the collapse of the structure in Nigeria right now. Don't you know it is dangerous? Don't you know if I was so concerned about my Chidi, you belong to the you belong to the Ontario Association of Architects, or Chidi, you are a member of the Royal Institute of Canadian Architects. If I cared about that, you think I'll be doing this? No. So when you hear people talk a certain way, when you hear people use certain languages, you need to go beyond what you're seeing. You way to live life. Onye anọrọ ebe enyi na ozu na-ebido n'ụkwụ wee kpọba ozu. If you're not there when they bury the person, when they take, when they want to perform the ceremony, maybe exhuming somebody to transfer the dead body to somewhere or to perform some rites, they have to open the grave and bring out the body. You don't know about that, what I'm talking now. But you have to start from the head. It is an abomination to start to take the corpse from the